Welcome you here tonight to our first parent forum in conjunction with the Placer County District Attorney's Office and the Health and Human Services Office for Placer County. As you can see, and you're all aware, the One Pill Can Kill campaign, the intent is for us to educate our community, parents, students, teachers, and make sure that we are well-versed in the impact that fentanyl has had and can have on communities. And our focus and the reason that we've gone down this path is to make sure that fentanyl has zero impact on our community is always our hope. And so we hope that tonight and all of our parent forums moving forward, as well as our student information presentations that we'll be doing next school year, will help educate our kids, help educate our parents, help educate all of the folks that are part of our school district. As a former high school principal, I can tell you that the one thing that they don't ever teach you in school, and there's no class that you can take on, and it is saying goodbye to a student. It's not natural for any of us to, for our kids to die before we do. It's just not natural, and the impact is devastating to the families, obviously, but to a school community, that impact can be devastating on a number of different levels. And so our hope is that people will spread the word about what we're trying to get out, the information we're trying to get out to our community, and hopefully come to future parent forums and make sure that they are supportive of the presentations that we'll be giving at all of our assemblies in August at all our JUHSD high schools. With that, what I want to do before I turn it over to Lisa is say thank you to the Placer County District Attorney's Office, to the Placer County Health and Human Services Department, and the Roseville Police Department, the Didier family who's here today to speak. I'd also like to thank Kevin Dredge and the Roseville Board of Trustees for making tonight happen. With that, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to let Lisa Botwinick, Deputy District Attorney for Placer County, take over.
Thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate the Roseville Joint Union High School District for giving us this opportunity to speak to our parents and our families within the Roseville community. And we'll be reaching out further to other families and communities within Placer County to share this very important message as it pertains to fentanyl and the problems it's causing with our community. One of the first things I want to talk about is what is fentanyl? Hopefully everybody has heard of fentanyl either in the news or in some sort of media so that people are aware of it. But fentanyl is a highly addictive controlled substance that's being marketed amongst all of our citizens, but mainly our youth, in the form of fake pills. It's highly addictive and highly fatal. But mainly what we're seeing in our communities are prescription pills, or what appear to be prescription pills, that are actually made with fentanyl. The problem we have is that the people who are making these pills are making them to where they look like actual prescription pills, to where a casual buyer does not know the difference between a fake pill with fentanyl or a real pill. And the message we're hoping to get out to our families and students is that the only way to know for sure that the pill you're taking is what you think it is if you got it from your doctor or the pharmacy. 98% of the most common pills purchased from dealers are fake, and the majority of these contain fentanyl. And a very small amount of fentanyl is lethal. We want everyone to realize that if there is a need for prescription medication, that it's made through your doctor, through your pharmacy, in a safe, controlled manner, and not on the streets where you're putting yourself at risk. Because frequently what is being sold is not as what it's being advertised as.
So, what's a fentanyl? A fentanyl is a fake prescription pill that looks just like the real thing, except it contains fentanyl. Fentanyl is an extremely powerful opioid, which is mixed together with a bunch of other stuff, then pressed down into pills to look real. And they can be disguised as almost anything, from Oxy to Percocet to Xanax or Vicodin. And the scary thing is, fentanyl shouldn't be anywhere near these pills. It's dangerous. We are talking about a drug that's 50 times stronger than heroin. And just a tiny amount, literally a couple grains of sand, can be the difference between taking a dud or taking something that'll straight up kill you. The worst part is, you can't even test a fentanyl. The only way to know if your drugs are legit is if they're prescribed by a doctor. If not, you're getting ripped off. That guy on Instagram or Snapchat who tells you they're legit, he's BSing you. He'll tell you they're real, even though they're not. There are literally hundreds of millions of these fentanyls out there, and they look just like the real thing. I mean, can you tell the difference between these two? What if I told you they're both fentanyls? How about these? Also fentanyls. Convincing, right?
One of the things that's imperative is for people to understand that no community is immune from fentanyl. Fentanyl is in every community across the entire United States. Every community is suffering. And while Placer County is a wonderful community to live in and a very safe community, we are not immune from fentanyl and its effects. In 2021, 33 Placer County residents died from fentanyl poisoning. Nearly half of those were under the age of 25. What's even more alarming is that in 2022 alone, we're already at 11 fentanyl poisoning deaths. 11, and we're only at the end of May. Our numbers are skyrocketing here in Placer County. And it's important for people to realize that we're just at risk, our youth are just at risk here, as they are in any other community, whether big city, small city, rural town. Fentanyl deaths in the United States have increased almost 500% in the last 5 years. And fentanyl is the cause of death, is the number one cause of death for our 18 to 45-year-olds in the United States. That is an amazing, staggering number of people who are killed by fentanyl every year. And you can see on our own graph, those are our Placer County numbers. So the blue bar is our number of overdose fatalities or deaths in every year, and the green bar is how many of those are related to fentanyl poisonings. I hope what this conveys to you is that it is an issue in Placer County, and that we all need to be wary of this. This is kind of hard to see from a distance, but what this chart tells us is the amount of deaths per controlled substance and its effect on deaths in the United States. You can see the yellow line is the fentanyl line, and you can see the huge spike that we've had in the last couple of years related to fentanyl poisonings and the number of our youth that we have lost to fentanyl. In Placer County, while unfortunately we have had our own victims of fentanyl poisoning, we are fortunate that several of those families are willing to share their stories to other Placer County families, to let them know the seriousness of fentanyl and to let them know that it can affect anyone and that we all need to be aware of fentanyl and its effects on our family and our community. So I thank all of our families who are going to speak with us tonight to share their stories of the impact of fentanyl on their families in hopes that it gives all of us education and awareness to prevent this from happening to any other family in our community. With that, I'd like to introduce Chris and Laura Didier, who are going to speak to you about their son, Zach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Didier. I really appreciate you guys being here tonight. I wish I was sitting out there instead of standing up here. These are some pictures of our beautiful son, Zach. He was just 17 years old. He was a high school senior at Whitney High School in Rockland. He was doing great He was a straight-A student. He was on the track team. He had just starred in the school musical as Troy Bolton from High School Musical. He had a girlfriend for a year. They had a great, healthy relationship. His friends were all standout kids as well. So we were blindsided, truly blindsided, when Chris found Zach deceased in his bedroom on December 27th of 2020. He just looked like he'd fallen asleep at his desk, laid his head down, but he never woke up. And we were obviously shattered and devastated, but more than anything else, we were so confused. He was healthy, he was happy, he was safe in his home. How could he be gone forever? I don't know which button to push. This one? Okay. So what happened to Zach? He went to a social media app, very popular one called Snapchat. It's not just happening there, it's happening on a lot of the platforms. He went to Snapchat and he purchased what he thought was a Percocet pill. He had an in-person exchange with somebody he had never met before, and he took that pill home. Unfortunately, what Zach didn't realize, what we had never heard of, was that there were these counterfeit pills everywhere, and that's what Zach got. So when he took that pill, he didn't stand a chance. When Chris found him, and of course tried to administer CPR and called the first responders, but it was clear there was no bringing Zach back. He'd been gone a long time through the night. And so then they wanted to, ask us, did he have a health problem? Did he have anything going on? Like, no, he was healthy, he was happy. So they searched the house, they searched his room. There were no drugs. There was no evidence of why he should be gone. But the first time that we heard fentanyl was when the coroner came to get him, and she said, I'm pretty sure we're going to find fentanyl in his toxicology report. And it was like, what the hell is fentanyl? How could my kid get it? How could he get enough of it to kill him in his bedroom? I felt like I was living in this horror movie. And that's when we started doing research and saw what was happening in Placer County, just this alarming spike, as you've been hearing about, in 2020. Tragically, Zach was the last in that count for 2020. And when we got confirmation of that, it wasn't a party death. He wasn't out being reckless. He wasn't battling a substance use problem. It was a kid experimenting, a kid pushing, limits, trying something, wanting to potentially relax. He had just been doing his college applications for the UCs and maybe wanted to just blow off a little steam. So Zach is in this new category of victim. Lisa was talking about all these young people, in their teens and early 20s that didn't used to die from drugs. It used to be, as you're coming up in life, you make healthy choices, you get on a healthy path, maybe with what you're eating, what your exercise, your friend group, different things that you engage in that lead you on this healthy path. Some young people take some risks, maybe some experimentation, maybe some choices that start them down what could potentially be a more dangerous path. Could start with experimentation, turn to recreational, occasional use of substances. That could become habit forming, maybe an addiction could develop. And maybe at the end of that long progression, someone might eventually lose their life. But in that path, there's opportunities to get well, to get better, to get help, to get back on that healthy path in life. But unfortunately, with the proliferation of fentanyl, we now have this, where someone can barely dip their toes in the water of experimentation or make a choice that didn't used to kill them, and now it can. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to press that yet. But before Chris comes up, I really want to thank you all for being here. Again, when we went public with Zach's story, got connected very quickly to another mom that you're going to hear from, the story of Spencer. And not long ago, got connected to Cade Webb's family. You'll hear from them later as well. And we're here, we find each other, and we're here so that none of you have to find us in this way. So take the information in and share it with people that aren't here tonight.
Before I forget, I wanted to simply say I am grateful for everyone who's here tonight, and to take time out of your day to come out and learn. Everyone's busy, and everyone has a very busy, hectic work schedule. And for those who've been working and they just want to try to get home, but instead you came here because we all want to have a safe and healthy home to go to. So I'm thankful for your taking the time to be here. As Laura eloquently said, Zach was a young, beautiful young man like so many other victims, and he was firing on all 8 cylinders, and he was a victim of fraud. In our advocacy, it's been very difficult to try to convey and articulate the message we're sending. And the reason why is because this is a new problem, and it's difficult to explain it. And for those who don't have a direct experience with fentanyl or recent experience with fentanyl, it's natural to compartmentalize when you hear a story on the news of someone dying from fentanyl. It's easy to compartmentalize, oh, that's a drug problem, or that is an addiction problem. Because when words are spoken like fentanyl, overdose, drugs, opioids, it's just natural to think, I don't understand that, I'm not experienced with that. That's that say no to drugs and the war on drugs problem. But when those words are spoken, addiction can be associated with the stories. And when that happens, it's possible that victim shaming can creep in, and our message gets lost. And so there's an important distinction that I really want to make here. And I'll try my best and summarize it in one word: deception. Deception is the key. Never in the history of illicit and illegal drug manufacturing and illegal drug smuggling, drug trafficking, drug peddling has deception been marketed and exploited like it has now. And not to distance myself from anyone who struggles with substance use disorder, they are also victims of fraud. If someone's struggling with the use of heroin or cocaine or just smoking a cigarette, and they know they have to quit smoking cigarettes because they gotta, get better and avoid lung cancer, is it fair that they go to a store and buy a pack of cigarettes and no one tells them there's fentanyl in it and then they die from that? Now, I'm only using that as a simple example because that's what's happening. Like our son Zach, many are taking a prescription pill. They think that helps them with pain management or anxiety or to get a high, but they're not aware that they're taking something that actually has fentanyl in it. In Zach's case, there was no Percocet in the Percocet he thought he was taking because there was no Percocet in it. CDC has reported statistics to validate this. In a recent 5-year study, they showed a growth rate in the number of fentanyl deaths in ages 14 to 19 to be 14-fold greater than before. 14 times growth rate in 5 years. It's over 2.5 to 3 times more than all other age groups. And I had to ask, why? Why are our middle school, high school, college kids being so dramatically more impacted? So there are many factors, I think, that are at play here. And here are two that Laura and I have kind of seen in our advocacy and our collaboration with other parents. And the first one is this, the cell phone. Cell phones have been around our youth much of their life. When I went in middle school and high school, I didn't have a cell phone. But millennials and Z-Geners today, that's how they grew up. Cell phones have become a very reliable and trusted resource for them. It's helped them solve math homework problems. It's helped them climb the social ladder of acceptance with their friend groups. It's helped them learn to play a musical instrument. They trust their phones almost as much or more than what they hear from their parents, teachers, and coaches. The other influencer are legitimate prescription pills. Legitimate pills prescribed by a certified doctor and dispensed at a pharmacy are far more common today than they were when I was in high school. When I was young, it was grandma and grandpa that traditionally got prescription pills, but today, pills are very common. They're far more normalized. So young adults, young kids have legitimate prescriptions for anxiety management or pain management from their doctor. Their friends have it, their siblings have it, their cousins have it, and so it's in their mind, I think, if I get a prescription pill, it's safe. So when you combine the appearance of having a safe product like a prescription pill with a cell phone that gives the appearance of a trusted solution, it's their reliable and trusted resource, then you have the potential of deception and an unaware or unknown danger. And that's why I believe the younger generation are more impacted right now than the older generations. In our presentations, we have quite a lot of info, but this is the only slide that we're using, and this is the one I think is the most impactful. And it's a big chart, but basically what this is a chart that's published by the CDC, and it's just all the different types of drugs that cause death in 2015. And it's really hard to see, but the horizontal line is ages from 1 to 80, and the vertical line is simply a percentage. And there's just a chart in the middle, and I don't know if you can read, but at the peak of the mountain there, it says heroin. Heroin was the leading cause of death in that age group, which is late teens and mid-20s. It was, in fact, in over 40% of drug-related deaths for those ages in 2015. Then the other drug types, you can see fentanyl is highlighted in yellow. There's methamphetamine, which is on the bottom. Benzos, cocaine. That was 2015. Those are all the different drugs that were involved in different deaths of different ages. 5 years later, fentanyl is taken over. It's in everything. It has absolutely dominated the illicit drug market and is responsible for up to 80% of drug-related deaths in 2020, and it has only worsened. And what's sad is at the peak of that hill of fentanyl is at the late teenage, early 20-year-olds. Needless to say, fentanyl changes everything. Deception has changed everything. And it's important that we have our community called to action and to spread awareness and just say, hey, there's deception here. Be careful what you're getting. Just like Lisa said, if it's not prescribed to you by a doctor, and dispensed by a pharmacy, it needs to be avoided. I think that was the last. I forgot, the CDC reported about just over 70,000 people died in a 12-month period as of November of 2021, which will fill up SoFi Stadium. That's a death rate of every 7.5 minutes, or 193 deaths every day from fentanyl. Every day. It's estimated around 5,000 to 6,000 are caused by fentanyl, has killed people under the age of 24. So our young adults, about 5,500 in 1 year. That's about 18 to 19 young adult deaths every day. And we all know what just happened when we lost 19 young people. Well, this is happening every single day.
just want to say one last thing as well. We are blessed to be in Placer County. When we decided we wanted to put a face to this crisis and share our story and go to schools and get this word out, every agency from the DA's office, you're going to hear from Christina later, all of these amazing people in Placer County said, yes, let's do this. And we're really grateful that, that we're here and we have this great support in our community.
Thank you, Chris and Laura. I appreciate it. I've heard the Didier speak a couple different times now about Zach and his story, and it is never less impactful than it was tonight. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Morgan Geyer, who is the district attorney for Placer County. Morgan's going to speak to us a little bit about the law enforcement side and what we're doing at the district attorney's office to help collaborate with the One Pill Can Kill Placer campaign.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here, and those online, thank you for tuning in. I must say it's very refreshing to see some young adults in here tonight, so I'll have a homework assignment for you at the end of my presentation. What's that? Oh, thank you. As Lisa said, my name is Morgan Geyer. I'm the district attorney for Placer County, so our office intersects when cases are presented to our office, when these deaths occur and are investigated, they come to our office if we can prosecute people for some of the sales and deaths that occur. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens on the enforcement side and a little bit about what we're doing on sort of the advocacy side and awareness side. But let me begin by thanking a few people. I too have had the opportunity to meet and get to know and hear the Didier family speak. And I will echo what Lisa said, that it is no less impactful the more times you hear it. It's almost some degree harder, but more empowering. You are going to hear additionally from some other folks tonight who have lost children, and just let that sink in, what they do to get up here. And I've told Chris and Laura this, and I will tell Liz and Laura and Steve this as well. This is the message that resonates with people. People get tired of listening to cops and lawyers speak, but people will listen and spread the message that you all share. This is incredibly empowering, and this is how we will make a difference. There's an old quote that says, coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, but working together is a solution. And that's what this is. It takes all of us. It takes everyone from law enforcement to Health and Human Services to the DA's office and the families that have experienced these tragedies, who have turned their anguish into action and their pain into power. Because parents, your kids will share this message, as you will too. You'll talk to your friends, your kids will talk to their friends about what this is and what it's doing to our community. So what are we doing? We're spreading the word. We're doing this. And my homework assignment to the young adults in the room will be, tell your friends that aren't here tonight about what you heard and what you learned. Doesn't have to be much, but talk to them. I went to this thing last night. Here's what they talked about. And I'll guarantee somebody's going to say, oh, I've heard of that. Or I know someone who that's happened to, or someone who is currently purchasing it or experimenting. Because what Chris said is absolutely right, and what Laura said, your opportunity to experiment. Kids are going to be kids and do dumb stuff. We all did. But the opportunity and that margin for error is now gone with fentanyl. It's everywhere, and it's deadly. And you've gotten some statistics tonight. 2 milligrams is fatal. There are 5,000 milligrams in a teaspoon. To put that in perspective, a couple of specks is all it takes. And these are not pharmaceutically made. These are made in street labs, and they're smuggled into the country, and they're sold by drug dealers. And you don't know what's in there. And one is not going to be the same as the next one. Some of the estimates by the DEA are that 4 out of 10 pills on the street are fatal. Fatal. 40% chance of dying just taking a random pill. So that's how bad this is, and I think we've discussed that. So this is what we're doing. We're going to be in the schools. We're going to be talking to your students and your kids. We're going to talk to anybody who will listen, and we will keep spreading the message. You'll see it on billboards. My family and I came back from Idaho yesterday, and in the desert of Nevada was a "One Pill Can Kill Nevada" sign, and I took it as a source of pride that my kids pointed it out to me. Look, one pill can kill, because we talk about it all the time. That's what you have to do. We have to have conversations. As Chris and Laura put it beautifully, the warning signs for these fentanyls don't exist. The only thing that will help is education and talking about it. Have difficult conversations with your kids. Ask if they're seeing it, if they're hearing about it. Talk to them. That's the only way we can do it. So, as you can see, the giant bags of pill. I'm going to skip to this next slide. The slide on the right shows in 2019, these are pills that were taken primarily from a drug task force that the DA's office operates. It is in conjunction with about 9 other agencies and operates both here in Placer and in the surrounding Central Valley corridor. And in 2020, their mission became fentanyl. It was clear this epidemic was not slowing down. It was increasing. The pandemic just increased the frequency of the deaths we were seeing. And they started targeting those, as did all of our task forces. And I will point out here in the room tonight, as we are so lucky to have the Roseville Police Department, who is tirelessly working these cases and is on the front lines of a lot of these cases. But in 2019, we had about 50,000 fentanyls either in the county or destined for the county. Some of those are intercepted as they're on their way. And in 2020, we saw that increase to 100,000, and in 2021, over 500,000. And we are on task to blow that out of the water in 2022 as well, as soon as those numbers come in. It's everywhere. When we used to make large seizures of methamphetamines, now we see some methamphetamine and a whole lot of fentanyl because it takes just a little bit. It's easier, it's cheaper to smuggle, and it is now everywhere. So what are we doing in addition to our awareness and our empowerment and our outreach? We've got an enforcement arm. We're looking for it. We're trying to seize it. And when that occurs, we will hold those who sell this stuff accountable. And as Chris pointed out, we have a couple of different fronts here. We have the addiction front. And in our county and in our state, we try and provide every path to redemption for those who are struggling with substance use and abuse issues. If we can put people on a path to sobriety and offer them a chance at redemption, we will do that. There has to be some accountability on the back end, because leniency without accountability doesn't solve the problem. But our goal for those who are afflicted with addiction issues is to treat them and to make them better, not to punish them. And we will continue to do that. We've done that for a long time in this state, and we take that very seriously. Even as prosecutors, we staff drug courts whose whole purpose is to get people who are intertwined in the criminal justice system on a path to redemption. So those who possess it for their own personal use can have that path. Those who possess it for sale and sell it and give it to others, we will hold those people accountable, and we are doing that currently, and we're pretty tough on them, especially in Placer County. And in some examples, if we can prove that people knew that what they were selling was likely to result in death, and they did it anyway, and they didn't care, sort of a deadly ambivalence, then we'll prosecute people for murder. It's not a new theory of law. It's just a new set of facts. We've seen it, just by way of example, repeat drunk drivers who are told, hey, don't do this again, and then they get intoxicated, they get behind the wheel, and they kill someone. It's the same thing. So as you can see, I think I backed it up too much. Let me back up one. In the middle there, under the warning, this is a warning that drug dealers receive when they are convicted in Placer County and in a number of counties across the state. There have been attempts to legislate this, and I will express just a little bit of frustration with our legislature. This bill has died twice, 2 years in a row. And it is a warning, and it says to the person convicted of selling drugs, you are now on notice that this is dangerous and someone can die. And if you do this again, you can be charged with murder. You now know what you're doing, right? So someone gets convicted of selling fentanyl or any narcotic, because we see it in everything now. We've seen fentanyl laced in cocaine. We've even seen it in marijuana. I don't know if you saw the news article several months ago about the cadets at West Point who on spring break went and bought what they thought was cocaine, and it was laced with fentanyl. It cost several of them. This warning is given, and now people are on notice. And we have, as you can see, we have filed criminal charges here in Placer County. A couple of other counties have done it as well. And we'll send a message to people in our county and hopefully in our state that if you engage in this behavior here and you take people's lives, you'll pay with it with a life sentence potentially. These are extreme cases and extreme examples, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to prosecute people for murder. I long for the day I wake up and I don't have any murder cases I have to prosecute. That's sort of a naive reality, but if people are going to come into our county and do this, then we're going to hold them accountable pretty harshly. And I'm happy legally to discuss some of the concepts here afterward too, for those of you that have questions. But it will take this approach. It will take all of us working together to spread the word. It will take those of us in law enforcement and in the court system to hold those who are selling these things accountable. But more importantly, it takes talking about it. And we can't do that without the bravery of these people sitting up here in the front row and Steve here, who have experienced this tremendous loss. I have had conversations with parents that no parent should have to have with a prosecutor or anyone about the loss of their child. It is something that is preventable if we get the word out. So my ask for all of you is going forward today, talk to people, tell them to come to the events, tell them to check out the websites. There's a whole bunch of information for folks to learn about this because, and I'm guilty of this myself, we think of, well, this can't happen to me, but it can. There's a group of people sitting in this front row right here who never thought it could happen to them, and it has. And it's our job to make sure that no one else in this community experiences the same loss that they have. So I want to thank them all again. I want to thank Kevin and Ron and Roseville for hosting this venue and event, because it's going to take these types of events to get the word out. So that's your homework, kids. I'll call you kids because you're closer to kid than you are grown up, trust me. So spread the word, and I want to thank the families again for being here. And you will hear the story of Cade Webb and his daughter here, Indigo, who is in the front row, who is about as sweet as it gets. That's the real toll of this fentanyl crisis. So thank you all for being here, and happy to answer questions at the end.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you. With that, I'd like to introduce Liz Dillander and give her an opportunity to share the story of her son, Cade. Liz?
Excuse my parents. I literally just drove here from Texas. I still have luggage on my car if you saw it in the parking lot. I'm not really prepared for this because I don't really know how you prepare to stand in front of a group of people and talk about your son. The last time I stood in front of a group of people was my son's funeral. He was poisoned on December 3rd of 2021. Cade grew up in Rockland. He was a local kid. He played Tri-City baseball. He was passionate. Everybody knew Cade. He went to Rock Creek. He went to Granite Oaks. He was as local as it comes, and he had dreams and passions, and we all did. You know, I went to this high school. You know, I dreamed of having a family and kids, and you never imagine walking around on this campus when you're 16, 17 years old that you would be standing in this room talking about losing your child. But our lives have turned into dates and timelines, and my brain is filled with so many statistics. It's crazy, and I can't keep it all straight in my head, but every time I hear like somebody dies every 6 minutes, or it's the #1 killer in the country right now. I mean, imagine that. More than cancer, more than heart disease, more than all accidents put together, we're losing that many people. And I feel like the drug dealers have tried to find a way to get their foot in the door for a long time, and they've found it. And your kids and our kids and your grandchildren and your nieces and your siblings are their target, and they're creating customers. And this is no longer about what are we going to do? We're behind the 8 ball on this. They're ahead of us. They've saturated our country. And I'm only saying this because I have had to study fentanyl. I should be watching my son play with his daughter. Cade died December 3rd, and his baby was born January 6th. He missed meeting his daughter by 4 weeks. He had big plans. And so I'm here because, literally here in California, because I moved from Texas today to help raise my granddaughter. This wasn't supposed to be our story. This was supposed to be Cade and Brooklyn having a life together. And now I'm here. I can't take his place, but I can do the best I can to support her in a journey at 21 years old as an instant single mom. Because Cade was deceived. Our children are being deceived. They're being lied to, and they're being created as customers, and they don't care if the pill that they sold you addicts you or kills you. They don't care. They made their money, and they walk away with the dollars in their pockets, and we're left to pick up the pieces. You have to talk to your children. You have to communicate with them if they have something going on. During COVID, our kids lost the ability to talk to counselors. They lost the ability to go to church and talk to their pastor. They lost communication with their friends. They lost their sports. They lost their community. And they learned to self-heal through the internet, through social media. And now we have to untrain them for the phones and the social media to be their only outlet. And if we're not giving them other outlets, then who are your kids talking to? And what are they doing? And until we can answer those questions, every single one of us is affected by this. Because if you don't have young kids, then you have siblings, you have nieces and nephews, you have grandchildren. This is affecting all of us. And like I said, we're already so far behind. It's still pouring in our country. Right now, as we speak, and that you guys have been sitting here, we've lost 2 young adults in the time that we've been in this room. Because every 12 minutes, that's how rapidly we're losing a kid. And right now, while we're sitting in here, this crap is being trucked into our country. And they're targeting your family. I wish I had more optimistic news other than the fact that we have an incredible county, and I'm grateful that we live in Placer County because I belong to social media groups of parents who have lost their children, and I hear all the time that nobody's doing anything. My kid died 6 months ago. My child died a year ago, and nobody's going after them, and nobody cares. We are blessed to live in a county where they care. It doesn't bring Cade back, but to know that you guys live somewhere where they're being this proactive, it's very rare. I took my children and I moved to Texas to escape things that I saw happening in the world, thinking it would be different, and it's happening there too. And it's completely in every town and every city across this country. And there's no more escaping it. There's no corner that you can go raise your kid in safely. It's in candy, it's in marijuana, it's in counterfeit pills. Basically, don't purchase or buy anything or do anything that is not prescribed to you. And that has to be the message to our kids. It's no longer the stigma that's been done. Like, this is just, like the Deanders were saying, like, this isn't people with addiction. Sometimes, and most of the time, these are first-time users. This is the first time somebody took a pill at a party, or your friend offered you a joint and you smoke it and that has fentanyl. It's being put in everything. I don't know what their future looks like, but I know coming back here to Placer County, I feel confident that this county is making changes to where hopefully we can have our kids feel safer. The letter that was on the previous screen was my son. To see his name and being involved with somebody that's has murder charges that has to do with his death, that's not what Cade would have wanted. Cade wanted to be famous. He was the most incredible snowboarder. He thought that, I think, like he was gonna have a clothing line on social media and he was gonna be a famous clothing designer. But Cade never thought that his name would be famous this way. But I feel like that I have to do something. I don't even know what that is really, except standing here talking to you and giving you all my statistics that are stuck in my brain. But if his name could be used to save one of your family members, then I'll tell you anything and answer anything that you want to know, because I'm still learning, but I have a lot of information too. So use all of us. We're accessible and we can leave our information with you, and you can send anybody to talk to us parents, because we just want you to not go through the agony that we go through. So thank you for being here today, and I just appreciate everything that you guys have done in Placer County, and we're grateful.
Thank you, Liz. At this point in time, I want to introduce Christina Iveras, who's with our Placer County Health and Human Services Department. Christina worked with public health, mainly dealing with a lot of the issues that our students and youth are dealing with that leads to them getting to these issues where they're looking for fentanyl or for other substances to help them cope.
This is very hard. It's a very hard night. It's a very hard time. And I appreciate all of you being here, everybody that's online, and everybody that will share this information, all the speakers, all the leaders that are just so courageous, taking your pain and helping us move forward and protect other people. I so appreciate it. Liz, I appreciated your words. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and a great-grandmother, and 6 of my 8 grandchildren right now are at the age and the lifestyle to where they could be affected by this. And so it hits home for all of us. I'm going to talk a little bit about, it might seem very maybe unrelated and not quite important enough, but it is. I think in public health, we always think about the big picture, the whole picture of the person, and everybody is on their own path. Everybody has their own struggles. We all understand about stress, but it's deeper. And I think during the pandemic, as Chris said, we have these factors. Also, the third factor, I think, that made it the perfect storm was the pandemic, that really isolated our young people that were already having mental health challenges. The internet, what we know, there's so many challenges today. And talking about, here, I'm gonna do that so I don't have to look up so hard. Talking about stress is, how do we balance now? How do we come back and balance together as a community, as a world, really, after what we've been through. And there's some basics. We know there's professional help, and it's so important not to feel that there's something wrong with that it's important to reach out. Maybe it's a school counselor. We have professionals in healing, in recovery. We also have counselors and mentors in the community, reaching out and getting help from people. There's nothing wrong with that. We have resources up there. There's a table with some resources, and you can also go to the One Pill Can Kill Placer website, and we have a whole host of resources as well if you'd like to just go there and look and see what you can get locally in the county. And if anything else, you can just call 211. And that's something we really want to really promote in our county is if you're at a loss and you don't know what to do, just call 211 and somebody on the line will help you find your way. Getting into a routine. Now, I know everybody knows the pandemic threw our world upside down, and having a routine was the last thing. But this is really important. And it's not just eating regular meals and making sure that you're, talking regularly, talking with your children regularly, having dinners together if you can, getting to bed at the same time. But just the whole concept of sleep in our routines is actually very impactful. So we want to make sure our young people are getting enough sleep, because when sleep gets disrupted, that can start affecting your mental health very early on. And getting solid, undisrupted sleep is really critical. So that's part of that routine. And we might not think it's that important, but it really is, because our brain hormones are affected by how much sleep we're getting, and if we're getting solid sleep. Taking a break, taking a pause, not feeling the pressure to have to fill up every minute of every day. This is something I know with AP classes. How many young people I know and work with that, they're bragging about how many AP classes they can take, and it's important. There's a lot of competition out there, but it's okay to take a break. It might only be a few minutes here and there. I know working in the field, when we sit at our desks, we're taught that, every hour, get up and, walk around for 15 minutes. Get out, do something fun. Give that time for yourself. Watch what you eat. Of course, nutrition's important. We have a poster up there, and there's some little posters you can all take home. It's English in the front and Spanish in the back, and it's about how your lifestyle factors really do affect your mental health and wellness. One of the first symptoms that a young person might not be getting enough sleep is starting to up their intake of caffeine. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I mean, it really can. That can be a signal that they're not getting enough sleep, and that might be something that you start talking about, because that might mean that that's a good time to really sit down and go, how can we support you in getting better sleep? And of course, the eating part, what we eat can change our brain hormone chemistries as well. And so the poster that we have out in the lobby also kind of talks about that a little bit. Exercise. Of course, exercise is important. It's really important because it can release the stress from our body. And everybody is on a spectrum, and this is not, no matter what is happening in your life and what you're going through, it's important to realize that we all have these needs to be able to decompress. We have the need to decompress and get physically active, and that will actually help us sleep better at night. Maintaining the connection with others. Those social connections are so important. Isolating ourselves as we did during the pandemic was really, really hard for everybody. Our children really had a hard time. And I remember doing an event was it last summer? Yes. It was a youth leadership training, and it was outdoors, and it was the first time any of us, including the youth at the training, had actually been around other people. And it was strange. It was really different. And a lot of young people right now, and I've heard this from even in elementary school, middle school staff, that they're having a hard time right now. They're having a hard time coping, and there's a lot of behavior challenges going on in schools. And if you look at that, the exercise, getting outside, I think getting outside is really one of the most powerful tools to help balance your mental wellness. Because when you're out in nature, even if you're just taking a walk around the neighborhood, of course, if anybody's gone to a forest or gone to the beach, it's really hard to have that stress inside. It's really important to regularly get out in nature and maintain that connection with others and also nature too. One of the greatest things that families can do is get into a ritual of having dinner and going for a walk. And young people might not think they have anything to say, and especially if you unplug from music or devices and maybe you just pick part of the walk where you do that, you'd be surprised at the great conversations that can go on. And summer's coming, so we have an opportunity to maybe look at how we can balance out and get back to that healthy routine for our families with this. So it's not just reducing stress without pills, it's really creating balance. And okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about something that is an unlikely conversation that might seem a little off from what you would expect tonight, but actually it's a really important conversation because cannabis, it has been part of the coping mechanisms. And one of the things that we've done is if you go to see a professional and you get prescribed a medication, that's one thing. But oftentimes, especially if a teen is isolated, they're feeling stressed, anxious, maybe they're feeling, anxiety or they're depressed, they might have a tendency to self-medicate. That might be reaching out for a pill, going online, and there is a deception for our young people that maybe smoking weed, vaping, might help that. And this is one of those areas where I think we have been deceived because the teen brain is developing during this time in adolescence. And I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about the vulnerable, developing teen brain. And it's really important to realize that these are two different things, because when something is developing and changing as it is during this time, anything that you introduce that's not regulated is going to be changing something in that brain. And the interesting thing about fentanyl and cannabis is that they both dysregulate the dopamine system. They both increase dopamine levels when you take them, which is the pleasure chemical in your brain. And then your body stops producing those chemicals when you're not using, which will make you more depressed, lower, not feeling as well, and then you can, of course, lead to substance use disorder over time. But the young teen brain is really vulnerable. And the cannabis research, between research and fentanyl, is very strong right now. There's a growing body of evidence worldwide showing how the number one factor, I'm going to read, I don't want to give you guys a lot of statistics, but the number one risk factor for opioid misuse in teens is using cannabis. And why would this be? It's because the cannabis today is extremely strong, it's extremely high in THC. When you think of the natural plant that came way back when, it was 1%, maybe 3% in the 70s. And now some of these products are 98% THC, which is which can produce psychosis, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, and suicidality. So we're being deceived by not being told this. There's actually there's a bill at the state right now, California, called Right to Know, and it just went through and passed the first step because people aren't being told this. And so this is going to become more in the foreground in the future, but it is important to know because we want to be prepared. So what do? It's about if you notice somebody self-medicating, that's when you want to reach out for help. And so the effects of cannabis on mental health that I just shared about, I'm going to just keep going there because I just went off track. Thank you. I haven't done many of these lately, by the way, so I'm just getting warmed up. You guys are rocking it. I just so appreciate everything. Every presentation that I hear Chris and Laura do, they're really being so thoughtful about all of the different pieces that they're becoming aware of, and I just really appreciate that wisdom. So one of the things that is so important, that if our young people are feeling that need to speak and reach out, and they're having those needs, is that we really want to get them to help right away. And one of the starkest statistics that's come out lately is in 2020 in San Diego, that THC was the #1 drug in all completed suicides under 25. And if you look at that slide up there, the on the left is THC. The third one is fentanyl, and this is completed suicides under the age of 25. So this is what's not being shared. This is the deception. And I think we really need to have these conversations with our young people because they do have a developing brain. But we don't want them to feel ashamed because they haven't been told this. So they're going to realize that there is support out there, but we need to be courageous enough to have the conversation. Just like this tonight. This is really difficult, but it really does take courage to have these conversations. And again, we see fentanyl in everything now, and also including vape pens. And so these are just some stories, and that we have the slides here, and I'm not going to belabor the point here, but we do know that the vape pens are really a really easy tool to be able to get any substance to our youth. So we really want to be careful because anything, whether it is nicotine or it's fentanyl, is going to be affecting the vulnerable teen brain. So what do? It depends on where you are. Where is your teen at? Where are they at? And really recognizing and realizing that wherever they're at is where you want to be there to support them. Harm reduction is looking at where people are at and offering them the support and the tools that they need at the time. And reducing the negative consequences by taking the stigma out of it, taking the shame out of it, and really having the courage to talk about reaching out for help is important. And naloxone, Narcan, is one of the most effective tools that we have right now to prevent fentanyl poisonings or overdoses. And it's very easy to get, and I will show. I'll actually share that in a little bit. And then there's the fentanyl test strips, And there's also medication-assisted treatment, which I hope every one of you, when you leave today, you go over to the table with the posters and grab something from Granite Wellness at the very least, because they have the resources. You can get naloxone from them later on. You can call them, or you can go to your pharmacy. Fentanyl test strips are one way to detect fentanyl, but as you'll see in a minute from the video, they're not really a safe form because of the chocolate chip cookie factor. Just like you take a bite of a chocolate chip cookie, and one bite has a chocolate chip and the other doesn't. And so when you're manufacturing these things, they're not regulated. The distribution of fentanyl in any product, whether it be a pill or marijuana, or it's in methamphetamine now and the other drugs on the street, you don't know where it's gonna be. So it's really, test strips can be useful, but it's so specific, the process, to really make sure it's doing its job. It's almost more appropriate to do it in a lab setting. It's designed to test urine. I'm just going through this right now because we're going to watch the video, and that kind of shows it best. Okay, I think that explains it, why it's not effective. Now, naloxone is, again, one of the most effective ways to save a life. So if you or anyone you know could be at risk, to be able to buy that and have it on hand. I forgot to grab the one in my glove box. It's small. Each package has 2 doses, which most often you need at least 2 doses for fentanyl. If there's any fentanyl poisonings, it's very easy to use, and it's safe, and you don't have to worry about you're going to hurt somebody, or what if it's not fentanyl? Is it going to hurt them? No, it's not. It's better. And even if the date is expired, you would want to do it anyway because it could work. But the first thing you need to do is call 911, and then you administer the Narcan is the trade name. If you go to Narcan.com, you can actually see the video on how to administer it. It's very good to watch it and just get yourself used to knowing that. And if you are around people that might be exposed to fentanyl or even unknowingly, it doesn't hurt to practice, just to be careful. And you always want to call 911 first. So you can get you can get it at your local pharmacy. You can get it through Granite Wellness. They have a lot of naloxone to be able to give out right now. Or you can call 211. So it blocks the effects of opioids immediately. And then we're going to go on to, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I think it's important to note that we're seeing fentanyl in every substance throughout the county, whether it's methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, vaping pens, fake pills, it's everywhere. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Laura Collington, who's going to speak a little bit to us about her son, Spencer.
Thank you, Lisa. It's hard to go last. And I want to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate you hanging in there to listen to everybody give their information. I also want to recognize Spencer's extended family that's here. His dad is here, Steve, and his wife, Tara, who actually also graduated from Roseville High School, and my husband, Roger. All of us were very involved in Spencer's life. I'm his mom, Laura, and he's my forever angel. He passed away at 20 from illicit fentanyl, from a fake Xanax pill on September 21st, 2020. And a lot of you here this evening, you've all heard about COVID and the lockdown and marijuana and all of that, and it all ties in. And this is the first time for me speaking in public, and I thought, well, you know, what can I say that's impactful? How do I get that message out? And that might be different from what other people have shared here tonight. And, you know, as a parent's lost a child, you want it to be meaningful and deeply powerful, because I want you to hear my words so that it doesn't ever happen to you or someone that you love. You know, maybe some of you are here just educationally, you know, thinking it would never happen to anybody I know. I don't know anybody who would use drugs, or my kids. I've talked to my kids. Well, guess what? I talk to my kids too. And I also want to tell you that I want to talk to you a little bit about Spencer, because I wanted you to see, you know, he grew up right here in Roseville. He's a hometown boy, just like the Didiers and Dillingers. He went to schools right down the street. Went to Bull John Middle School, went to Thomas Jefferson. He was born first of three, and he was bright and funny and very, very busy. And when the doctor tells you at 2 years old, you have your hands full here, Mama, I thought, oh gosh, I got to get this kid busy, right? So I did what all you guys did. I got him in sports. He played basketball, he played baseball, he played soccer, he competitive, recreational, he did swim team. His dad started the first Cub Scouts in our neighborhood. He was involved in scouting, you know, but he had ADHD ultimately, and he didn't really like school too much. He didn't really care for authority too much. He was a handful. And I knew from a very young age that I needed to keep him on track. I was that mom. I had rules. I had curfews. I had expectations. If you didn't have good grades, you had consequences. I needed to know where you were going, and you had a curfew, and I needed to know who that parent was and what their number was. And if a kid came over, who were you and what's your mama's name and what's their phone number? My kids thought I was crazy. And, you know, but I was worried. I knew, because I'm in healthcare, that a kid with ADHD is prone to self-medicate. And from a very young age, I fought that tooth and nail. I took him to special counseling. We did, you know, all natural diets. Again, he hated that. Supplements, whatever I could do, right, to make sure he was on the right path. And I talked to him about all the bad things out there. We talked to them, we educated them. But you just don't know what they're going to do sometimes. And you think you've done everything you can. You know, we did family trips. We had dinners together. We camped, we hiked, they snowboarded, they surfed. They did everything, right? Just like your family, or maybe not even like your family, but in the end, it doesn't matter if you had our lifestyle or a different one, or how many conversations about drugs and scary things that are out there. You know, your children will make their own decisions despite our intentions. They don't always tell us what's happening. And even when you get help for them, sometimes it's not enough to overcome their struggles. I have spent sleepless nights asking the what ifs and doing the why didn't I, and I should have. But if you heard my story just now, You know I did everything to teach and provide a foundation for adulthood, and I was one exhausted mama. They don't give you a handbook at birth. They don't give you a handbook at death. He doesn't have any more chances to make it right, and neither do I, but you do. And you can. I don't have all the answers. You know, he was a young adult and he was out on his own. He did struggle, but I want to tell you, he was attending Sierra College. He'd become an EMT. He was accepted to the firefighter academy. He had a job. He had a darling girlfriend. I will tell you, COVID kicked his ass. It took away, at the time, he lost his job. The classes at Sierra shut down. He couldn't go to the gym. He was isolated. And I will tell you, the stuff about marijuana is true. Spencer self-medicated with marijuana, and it was a gateway drug. And along with that ADHD, he had anxiety, and COVID made it worse. And he struggled, and he made a really bad and deadly decision, and he was deceived. Spencer did not have any intention of dying that night alone in his apartment. And I want to tell you, finding your child is the worst pain you will ever live through. You can't imagine, and I don't ever want you to. That's why I'm here. So I am now sharing his story, and I can listen, and I can be a resource, and I encourage you to talk to anybody here. If you have a child like mine, or even a child that has never even tried a substance, you just gotta talk to them. This is real. The other thing I want to tell you is get Narcan. My 2 younger kids carry it. I have a daughter graduating from here on Friday. She has it in her backpack. My 20-year-old carries it, has it at home. His roommates have it. It can save their life. I will tell you, it takes less than 9 minutes. They're gone in 9 minutes. They go to sleep and they never wake up. And you don't know it. The other thing is, there's a Good Samaritan law. Don't ever leave your wingman. You kids, if you're with somebody and they start acting weird or they pass out and you hear them gurgling or snoring, don't leave them. Call 911. You will never be punished. You will never get in trouble for saving their life. I hear countless stories of parents grieving that their friends left them alone. They left them to die. Don't do that. Call 911. You can be a hero. Okay? Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you to the families who have shared their stories with us. And I hope it's just as impactful to all of you in the room and those of you at home to hear what they've had to struggle with and deal with. And I appreciate their courage to share those stories in the hopes that no one else in our community has to go through what they've gone through. Here at Placer County, we've been working on the One Pill Can Kill Placer campaign. It's a combination of multiple agencies throughout the county, law enforcement, the DA's office, Health and Human Services, different substance abuse counseling services, to try and provide information and education for our families in our community. If you have questions, please check out the One Pill Can Kill Placer website. It has lots of resources and lots of information. There's also information on there how to request a speaker for an event or a group that you may have that you want to share this information with. I want to thank everyone for coming today. We have a little bit of time left. If we have any questions, Just for the people in the audience, people at home, sorry. But if anybody in the audience has any questions, we do have some microphones down here at the front. If you have any questions for our families or for Morgan Geyer or for Christina from Health and Human Services or even our Roseville Police Department, who's here in the back. Anyone have any questions? Yes. Yes, if you could please come down, that way everyone here in the room as well as home can hear your question. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you for doing this presentation. It was very eye-opening and very well done. I was curious about the marijuana. I'm really surprised to hear that fentanyl is in marijuana. How is that done? I guess is my question.
Well, I'm not the marijuana dealer, but what we're doing is we're finding it laced in everything. So marijuana is frequently smoked in a joint or cigarette type, and if it's already prepared, sometimes the fentanyl is already mixed in with the marijuana when it's rolled up into the cigarette or joint form.
Hence, what was that? Is that also like in a liquid or?
Yeah, the fentanyl is being mixed into the cartridges that go into the vape pens.
Thank you.
It's amazing. I mean, I was surprised when I read myself about how we're finding it. Because it started when I first learned about fentanyl was when it was in methamphetamine and heroin and cocaine on the street, and our officers had to be careful when they arrested people for possession so that they didn't become exposed and have these negative consequences. And it's just progressed in the years to where it's more and more prolific, and it's actually marketed, or it's not marketed, it's actually sold as these fake pills to our youth who are unsuspecting and don't know. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay, not saying, thank you so much everyone for coming out. Our speakers will still be here in the lobby or down here afterwards. If you have a question you wanted to ask in private, please feel free to do so. But again, there's nothing I can say more than to warn and to educate everyone we know about the dangers of fentanyl, because there aren't any second chances. Thank you.